We are now tracking what is turning out to be one of the biggest international stories, Trump versus, well, international students. US has issued a fresh warning for foreign students in the country that are on a student visa. As per the latest announcements that's been made by the US Embassy in India, foreign students have to ensure that they do not drop classes, drop out courses, or even skip their classes. And if at all it happens, they may risk losing their visas. This is a latest set of warning that has come in, that is following a series of deportations, crackdowns, all of it aimed at ensuring that foreign students are pretty much now being termed and put along with undocumented immigrants. That's what is happening, unfortunately, in America. Also, the fact that there's growing uncertainty in terms of whether or not their visa status remains valid. Now, add to this fresh level of uncertainty that's come in is the crackdown and measures that have been undertaken against Harvard. There are 788 students from India who are in Harvard, and the latest measures that are being taken by the Trump administration against Harvard further intensifies the crackdown. The latest measures that have been taken is that Trump has cut Harvard's $100 million federal contracts. Federal agencies have been ordered to drop Harvard in terms of any possible orders that they may have, and separate set of vendor identification will take place, which will not include Harvard University. That's the extent now to which this crackdown has gone, and I can stick my neck out and say this isn't the last. This has still begun, because that legal fight that Harvard has picked up is yet to really see the light of day. The question that we are going to now ask, and in fact, let me get in Sudhanshu, who's joining me live on this, Sudhanshu Kaushik, who represents North American students of Indian origin there. Sudhanshu, the fact is, you may be in a vehicle, you may be heading somewhere, but it looks like a lot of students are stuck right now with no prospects of actually reaching anywhere. That's what it's increasingly looking like. Visa uncertainty, add to it the Harvard crackdown. Are Indian students stuck right now in a place between with limited or zero prospects of having clarity anytime soon?
Absolutely. It puts you in a place of such uncertainty. Imagine taking so many loans. Imagine taking off a year of your life into putting into applications, having all these dreams and ambitions. And then all of a sudden you're said, oh, listen, if you come here, you're not going to be accepted. You might, have racial attacks against you. And by the way, the government is not supporting you by any means, even though you're giving them full rate tuition, 4 times the amount of tuition that a domestic student pays. And yet, even if you miss this class, apparently, your visa will be revoked for the smallest reasons whatsoever. You're instilling such a level of fear that just does not make sense. Why would the sitting US administration really create fear in a $50 billion US economy?
Absolutely. And in fact, some of the statistics that we have indicate that Indian students alone contribute about $7 to $8 billion to the entire American university ecosystem. That's a large number. You have 3 lakh students, all facing varying degrees of uncertainty because, well, even though they are legal immigrants with all paperwork in place, they're suddenly being treated like illegal immigrants in their in America.
That number you said, the 7 to 8 billion, I would take out and say that, that's a conservative estimate. That's taking into consideration the US tuition that they pay for colleges, that's taking into remittance, etc. But what about the local economy that they're also contributing to? There's no way to actually see how much they're spending and how much they're actually taking in. So I would actually say it's about 10 to 15 billion easily that Indian students, international Indian students contribute. And absolutely, you're contributing so much and then you're getting a slap on your wrist and saying, hey, miss a class for any reason whatsoever, whether it's you're sick or whether it's a job interview, whether it's anything else that could be personal, you might be at the risk of losing your visa. And this comes on top of the job market still being so fluctuating because of the policies in place. Listen, I'm saying this again. I just don't see how this is a better deal. The higher education market in the United States was a win-win for the United States. You get tuition money, you get talent, and you get prospect. Why are they trying to disrupt this? Why are they trying to ruin this? And why are they trying to create such a fear among students who have broken no laws, right? Who are there to study, who who are there to contribute. They're working on their STEM OPT, and they
Sudhanshu?
go on with their day.
Exactly. There has been a year-on-year decline in terms of the number of students who are going to America from India. There's been a decline, 15, 18, 20%, that's been the decline. This kind of a crackdown, this kind of a mood of uncertainty, some would even say fear, because you're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds having no idea what their future looks like. This means that next year, maybe for fall or for spring next year, how many students are actually going to evaluate American universities as a career option? What's the kind of dent we are talking here?
Look, it's really interesting because we've been speaking to a lot of Indian students, prospective and also the ones that are going here who have the option to transfer out, whether it's a different country or a different university. The fascination of the U.S. and the higher education in the U.S. still exists. I'm not going to say that there's going to be a drastic drop. I'm actually going to say that there will be a decrease, 10, 15, 20% greater than what it has been before because of the fear. But I still think that Indian students have this fascination and appeal to U.S. higher education, and they're still going to do it. The thing is that there is so much an abundance of supply and a limited kind of supply and an abundance of demand, where Indian students are willing to pay the price and they're going to go there. Now, is it the best decision for those Indian students? I can't say.
Absolutely,
right?
I can't say either. But I want to ask you one thing before I let you go, which is that if there was one piece of advice that you would give to students right now in American universities who've gone from India, what would that advice be?
I would say be very careful in the universities you pick, be very careful in the career choices you're making, and be very careful of how you engage with your university and how you engage with society in general. I think for the first time in my lifetime, a student has to be careful of what they do, what they say, outside of just following the law. They have to be careful of their freedom of speech is up at risk. Their freedom to practice religions in one case is also at risk, but their freedom to just study as a student and that academic freedom that we've been promised is at risk. So I would caution them to be careful, to be really, really sincere in what they're trying to get out of their U.S. higher education system. And if at the end of the day they've taken loans, if at the end of the day they're in debt, I would just ask them to evaluate their priorities and focus on getting a job or getting your degree and getting out there.
Indeed, many of those students, most of them would have taken loans with their visas, their jobs, their degrees, all those prospects being under great uncertainty. Sudhanshu Kaushik, thanks much for speaking to me, Executive Director of North American Association of Indian Students, joining us live from Chicago.